I am picking up on your page 61, almost immediately going to your page 62. So the whole issue of place, where we market. We spoke yesterday about the old brick and mortar retail belief of 5-mile radius, 15-mile radius. But if you fly commercial and you open up the airline magazine in your seat pocket in front of you, you'll find full-page ads from hormone treatment doctor, cosmetic dentist, who are getting, what are you doing? Yeah, you can sit there. Yeah, don't eat the candy. You can sit there, but you can't eat the candy. How's that? How was I talking about? Oh. So you will find full-page ads from docs who are getting patients to fly in from all across the country to get the same treatment that they could get from a doctor 6 blocks down the street. And why would that be? It's mostly because those doctors decided they were going to market nationally instead of market locally. It literally is about what they decided to do. And now it's not that odd to see those ads, but when it was first done, the first few medical practitioners who did it were thought to be insane. I mean, just nuts. And obviously that space is expensive, and yet if you track it, there's a few of them who are in American Way and United's magazine every month, month after month after month after month at those full-page prices. They have what is traditionally a local brick-and-mortar business that they have decided there's no reason it needs to be local. If you step it up to the hospital level and you look at Cleveland Clinic, which is based here, they have entire floors set aside for their international non-U.S. patients who come here from all over the world to beautiful downtown Cleveland in order to get operations that are arguably available anywhere. So this thinking has settled in to medical. There's also a reverse of it. Okay? So there's a hospital from India, where little guy's from, that has a sales office in Los Angeles that sells people on going to India to get their non-urgent surgeries done. And they have a great hospital, and they got great docs, and it's right next to a super-duper resort, just like the Cleveland Clinic is right next to a Ritz-Carlton that they own under license. And the person seamlessly goes from whatever surgery they're getting done over to the resort, lays by the pool, doctor comes over there twice a day to make sure gangrene isn't setting in. It's all one package price, and they ship them back home. The cash patient, the affluent patient, is doing that. It's called medical tourism. There's an industry of it. So the medical business has accepted the idea, not universally, I mean, it's not what the majority do, but what was once a renegade and radical and unbelievable idea has become something of a norm, that a patient for all sorts of things will travel within the United States, significant distances. They'll certainly cross a state line to go to a preferred provider. They will come from foreign countries to here. We will go from here to foreign countries. It's sort of become, okay, we get it. It goes on all the time now with healthcare. One of our big HMOs is busily building a medical care complex in Mexico. They are getting ready for the day that they will transport lots of patients from here across the border to be taken care of for a lot less money than we will take care of them here. And it's going to happen. So then there's a bunch of other businesses that everybody thinks can't work this way. But in fact, there's somebody in them who has figured out how to make it work. There's in Pennsylvania, there is an Amish kitchen maker, remodeler company. I forget their names, but a friend of Carla's recently had them do her kitchen. Ironic, of course, because, so the more expensive the wedding, Joan Rivers' theory always was, the more money spent on the wedding, the shorter will be the marriage. There's a direct correlation, right? So I think Kevin Fayol, who's here, he's in that industry, he might validate me or not, but I think the more money spent on the kitchen, the less likely it is that anybody in the house cooks. This is and it is certainly borne out in this case, right? But, so this deal, though, is you go to, doesn't matter where you're getting the kitchen done, you go to, it's outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and you check into a hotel, and you stay there for 3 days, while you plan your marvelous kitchen transformation with the Amish craftspeople, and you pick out the wood, and you get the drawings done, and they make a video documentary of every step of the design and making of your kitchen for you to now annoy your friends and relatives and neighbors with. When it is given to you on a DVD, and there's a still photographer that takes pictures of you, with your head in the wood pile next to the Amish guy, and they drive you back and forth to your hotel with a horse, and a cart, and they've made a big to-do of this. And people come from all over the country. They're mostly booked 6 months out, and you pay a fortune. Right? You could build a really nice house for what she spent for this kitchen in which no one cooks. And the Amish guys build the whole thing, and then they come and install it. So there is an installation day or two now at your place. But you can't do it unless you go there and do this 3-day thing. And people are there from California, and they're there from New York, and they're there from Boston, and they're there from who knows where, right? Now, if you tell that to most kitchen remodelers who believe their territory is, 50-mile radius around their showroom, and they're going to exhibit at the local home show, and this is where they're going to get all their leads, you can show it to them, and they still will not get it. Garmin's deviation of territory. Again, we could show that to 50 commercial real estate brokers from all across the country, and the likelihood of any of them going home and copying it, because it defies their idea of how place works. Right? And so you have to think about your idea of how place works. And for many people in many businesses, it would be good to think beyond even the United States one way or another. There are markets that are now much more vibrant, robust than ours. There are markets with a lot more affluence, if that's what you're after. What did you just tell me? Okay, so for 624 grand, this just sold in Hong Kong, a parking place. Not a garage. No, a parking place. In Reston, Virginia, where we have our other home, there was recently a mutiny at Reston Town Center because they put in parking meters. And in front of the shops, people had to pay to park. The people and the merchants mutinied over $5. They just sold this parking place at Hong Kong for 624 grand. And there's probably yearly renewal and maintenance fees on top of that. Okay? Per square foot, I paid more in Reston for the extra closet. I paid 3 times as much per square foot for the extra closet as I did for the condo. Because there's no damn closet space. So they brilliantly built the condos with enough closet space for the dog stuff. Okay? And otherwise, you're just going to have your shit laying on the floor. But then on every floor, they have extra closets. I paid a lot of money for the second parking space. And it has appreciated 2 times more than has the condo in the same period of time. Okay? I mean, I knew exactly what I was doing. And it's not like everybody on the floor can have an extra closet. There's only a few extra closets, right? So that baby is worth more per square foot than is the condo, supply and demand, right? So, but globally, there are these markets. Rolls-Royce is making a car only for Asia. Bentley is making a car only for sale in Vietnam. So we are, most of us, I'm worse than most, by the way, personally. Most of us are very provincial. I mean, most Americans think like Canada has Toronto, there's moose roaming around in the streets. I mean, you know, they remember the TV show Northern Exposure, and they think that's what Canada looks like. They don't know. It's a big to-do to most Americans. It's still 20% of the population in America. Adult population has never been on an airplane. All right? They haven't gone anywhere. They don't know nothing. Okay? I mean, we're really provincial. And business people tend to think in these provincial ways. Right? My royalties from foreign translations of my books last year, all added together, admittedly, but still, equaled my royalties in the U.S. I just told Frank, I just re-signed a deal for another 5 years for the Russian translations of my books published in Russia. So they are either rewriting them when they translate them, or this is an amazing thing that these books are sold in translation in Russia. It makes no sense. And I assumed when we did it 5 years ago, that's the last money I'm ever going to see from that, and in come the contracts again. Apparently, I'm big in Russia. There's a speakers bureau bugging me every year. Oh, we're going to do 5-city tour. It's going to be big. Yeah, right. How about if I send you a cardboard me and a recording? I mean, you know, from a distance, who'll know? You know, I mean, and then the other kind of market there is that people don't really understand. We have a shrinking middle-class economy. And odds are nobody fixes that. Okay? There's just too many convergent forces. So the shrinkage may be stemmed in the short term, but by and large, we are going to have a collapsed pyramid with a big hole in the middle, just like I put in the Affluent book in 2004. That's what we're going to have. Right? Some of these other places have the fastest, they have middle classes growing faster than ours did at its peak. And that's the rising tide that lifts all boats economically, is the middle growing. Is their standard of living going up? Is their income going up? Because at the bottom, no matter what you do, all the money goes to necessity commodities. So like here, if we give a tax break to poor people, it has no real economic impact. It all goes to their existent debt and toilet paper and cigarettes and beef jerky. I mean, the list of things on which it gets spent is really small. If we give it to rich people, mostly they hoard it. It has its dynamic economic effect with the middle class, because if they get money, they spend it. Okay? If a poor person gets a tax refund somehow, magically, I don't know, the unearned imaginary income tax credit that they get, it was spent before they got it on stuff they have to have. If a rich person gets a tax refund check, we don't do anything with it. Okay? If a middle income person gets a tax refund check, they buy a motorcycle. Okay? They buy an RV. They take a vacation. They spend that money. So these places, South America, China, has these middle classes growing by leaps and bounds, which has a lot of money moving around. And the days when this was impossible are long past. The internet has made it possible. Most info marketers, including GKIC, who do nothing much to cause any of it on purpose, have 20, 25%, 30% of their revenue coming from beyond our shores. And it grows every year. It goes up every year by accident. And in many of these niches, from an info marketer standpoint, the business people are more compliant and into it. And so like, we try and get people here to do a shock and awe package, and it's like pulling teeth. Frank Miranda just showed me. He's got every one of his guys in Italy. They a shoe repair shop. Guy's got a beautiful shock and awe package, 2 DVDs, folder, wood, shock and awe box. I mean, like yours. This guy's got some little local brick and mortar business. He's got a wood box, 4 DVDs. Frank's got a factory making it. They're all excited, right? They can't wait to do this. We're like, you got to have it. Yeah, but do I have to have a folder? Can I just stick it in a bag? This is what we're dealing with here, right? I mean, it goes all the way back to when Rick, and the point he made, which is a good one, is we had our middle class spending boom after World War II. And everybody came back. The menswear business, I just read an article about this. The menswear business, greatest boom. Hart, Shafter, and Marks grew to epic proportions in the 10 years after World War II. Why? We had a draft. So every man had been in a uniform for years. All of them had been in the same uniform. They couldn't wait to get fashion. It boomed. Right? Plaid was a big fucking deal. Right? So like Italy, where Frank is, they're like where we were in 1970, because they needed 20 years just to rebuild the place. It was rubble. We don't really have a sense of it, but those places were rubble. We were in the 1950s, we were sending food boxes to England and to Germany because they didn't have any food. And they had to rebuild this place. So they're now having their middle class boom, right? And South America is starting to have their middle class boom. But when Rick went there with Tupperware 20 years ago, he was already into there where we were in 1955. And that's when direct selling boomed here, was in 1955. So it's incumbent, and I think increasingly incumbent, to try and figure out if you are in a business or there is an extension of your business that can be made to if not be global, to at least be beyond the United States. The entire fast food franchise industry, all the growth is overseas. I mean, that's where it all is. It's not here. Any of those mature companies are creeping here, but they are opening. Starbucks is opening 400 more units here in the next 24 months, and they're opening 2,400 units in China. 2,400 units. Now, my theory about all this, by the way, is this is how we win every war. Is we just open a lot of Pizza Huts and McDonald's and Starbucks and shit. If we would go do that in Syria, they'll all be so fat they won't be able to chase anybody around in about 5 years. They'll be just like us, right? If we just fatten them up, we can solve this entire problem. So, place. My favorite 7 place strategies are, number 1, get it out of your head. Get rid of the, I'm on page 62. Get rid of the 5-mile radius. Get rid of the 15-mile radius. Get rid of the only in my city. Get rid of the only from my state. Get this stuff out of your heads. And it'll find examples that can help you do that. Second, move up. Right? The 2 issues that control how much money we make from a constituency of customers are their interest in buying what we have, their willingness to buy it when it is shown to them. If they didn't know about it before, they're made aware of it, their interest in it. Right? So nobody ever went looking for the hose that coils itself back up when you turn it off. Nobody searched for it. Nobody went looking for it. Nobody wanted to buy it because nobody knew the damn thing existed, right? But when you show it to people, a whole lot of people would like to have it. Well, that's cool. I don't have to coil the damn hose. I turn the water off, and it, which of course it doesn't do that, but it sort of does that, right? I mean, you can't really take what you see on TV literally. But it sort of does it. Okay? So big interest in buying it. Now, the only other issue is ability to buy, right? Can they afford the thing, right? Do they have to have a credit card to buy it, or is there some place they can bring cash, right? Is there a way for them to buy it with PayPal? Do they have to do it online, or is it in a store? Will we let them talk to us on the phone? So ability to buy. See, direct response still suffers from the fact that 25% of the American public doesn't have a credit card. So they can't go online and they can't call up on the phone and buy something if the only way they can do it is with a MasterCard, Visa, Discovery, or Amex because they don't have one. Right? Mexico is much slower and is catching up. We had a guy in our group 5 years ago. He's doing seminars, and he's got to do the seminar, make the pitch, and then wait till tomorrow because they all got to come back to the seminar with cash because he didn't have any way, there's no way to, as a practical matter, to process credit cards. And imagine trying to do that here, right? I pitch you guys all, and now go get cash and come back tomorrow and buy the $2,000 get rich in real estate thing I just got you all lathered up about tonight. You'd have one person back, right? He had 90% come back. Right? They go get the money and they come back with it in bags and they pay because they want stuff more than we want stuff, right? But the issue is always willingness to buy and ability to buy. So with willingness, there's all sorts of stuff we can do to, if not create it, stimulate it, just like we talked about right before the break, right? If we're better at selling the meanings of things than the functions of things, that helps willingness to buy. The things we can do for ability to buy are much narrower. We can finance somebody. We can do that, right? So if they don't have the ability to buy, we can let them pay us over 412 months, right? We can do that. We can cut the price. We can make a cheaper version of the thing we sell that broker people could buy. But the range is pretty narrow, right? So the answer to that is make sure you're selling to people with the ability to buy what it is that you sell at the prices you want to sell it to. And tons of business people can't get this through their heads. They just can't get it. They are bringing people through their doors, whatever those doors are, who do not have the ability to buy what they want to sell at the prices that they want to sell it at. And then they're wondering why they're irritated and frustrated all the time. And it's so, first of all, they take the biggest dumb companies, or the ones run by PhDs. The first thing they do is they create their ad budget for the year, for the quarter, for the whatever, right? And then they democratize the ad budget, meaning they decide this much is going to go to this media, this much is going to go to this media, this much is going to go to this media, and then they evenly spend it. And no matter what it brings through the door, they just count bodies, eyeballs, feet, right? How many, you hear this all the time, at the small business level, if you ask a restaurant owner, how was his weekend? He's going to answer you mostly he's going to answer you with the dumbest number. So he's going to answer you either with how much revenue he did or how many tables he turned. Those are going to be his two answers. Okay? A few, mostly we've educated them if it happens. They're going to answer that way, but they're also going to give you some kind of future bank number, which in the restaurant business is names, addresses, phone numbers, and birthdays. Okay? So they will know how many data cards they collected once we've taught that to them. Okay? Because the birthday is future money. Everybody goes out, except him, because he's working, but mostly everybody goes out to a restaurant to celebrate their birthday. Most don't go alone. That would be better. That would be a better celebration for me. Just let me go. You guys stay here, have the party, have a good time. I'm going to take myself out to dinner. Leave me the hell alone. That would be a better deal for me. But most people don't do that. 5 years ago, somebody threw a big party for me. And their house they've got a barn and they got a couple horses out back. And they had to come find me. I mean, after 20 minutes, I disappeared out the back door, and I'm out in the barn with the horses. You know, I don't want to be any part of this. But most people go with at least one other person. Many go with two other people. So if I have your contact file, if I'm in a restaurant business, it doesn't mean McDonald's, but if I'm in a restaurant business and I have your contact file and I have your birth date and I have his birth date, I have money in the bank if I'll use it. And I don't have to be a marketing rocket scientist to cash that chit, right? So that would be the next kind of answer somebody could give you in that business. Now here's the other data answer they could give you is just number of data cards captured and whether or not they were a first-time visitor to the restaurant, right? That's okay. Now, the answer you'll never get is the differential quality of customer answer, right? Because they don't track it, they don't understand it, they don't do anything with it, which there's all sorts of things you can do with it if you tracked it and had it, but they don't got it, so they couldn't do it even if they understood what to do. And yet, the differential value of the customer is profound. Let's take something really easy to understand. We got a mid to upper range restaurant. We got the equivalent of a Outback. Now let's go higher. We got the equivalent of a Morton's or a Hyde Park or a Ruth Chris, one of those. And we captured data cards and we had 22 first-time guests this week. So one of the things that guy has to report to you, if you ask him, how was your week? He says, we got 22 people who came in for the first time, and we got their names, addresses, phone numbers. Now, it'd be better if he said we got their birth dates, like 5 times better, 6 times better, 7 times better. But he could give you that answer. Now, the really cool information would be about differential value. Simple check size. What did they spend per person? The ones who spent more, how the hell did they spend more? Well, some bought wine, others didn't buy wine. Some bought cheap wine, some bought really expensive wine. To get them back, differential spending is warranted based on differential value. If you're going to buy a $100 bottle of wine every time you guys come to dinner, and Cliff and Lee are going to come and drink Coca-Cola, okay, I can spend $50 more to get you back than I can spend to get them back, and I should. So now I'm going to manage my marketing based on ability and willingness to spend at different levels. Right? You got it? But you won't find these answers in anybody's business. But all your money revolves around willingness to buy and ability to buy. Okay? Unobvious places and out-of-category advertising is my third beloved strategy. Almost everybody advertises and markets in the obvious places. Okay? So you're on, if you're a jewelry store, you might be in Valpak, you might be in a high-end local magazine. You probably aren't at the home show, and you probably aren't at the horse show, but you should be. The jewelry store should be at the horse auction. You guys have all heard me tell this story, but the guy does 20 times per square foot when he does his pop-up store at the horse auction as he does with his 4 stores at the mall. Okay? And it ain't horse jewelry, it's just jewelry, because everybody coming home with a horse needs to come home with a bracelet. Look, diamond bracelet. Don't notice the horse. Okay? That's that gig, right? Out-of-category advertising. So Gardner's mattress, those guys. Real pricey, real expensive mattresses. In the yellow pages, they're in mattresses, but they're also under chiropractors. Right? They're also under assisted living. Gee, if you got mom a really good bed that'll rise up and dump her out on her feet, you can delay another year before you stick her in assisted living. The bed's a lot cheaper than assisted living. Mom's happier. Got it, okay? So they're in these categories that aren't their categories. They're the only mattress retailer, and there's 56 of them in their 15-mile radius. They're the only ones in an organic health and food magazine, right? Because they got whiz-bang green mattresses. I don't know, they're made out of something that if you lay on them, you don't get toxic. You know, it's a story. So unobvious places. There's a company that makes pre-manufactured steel buildings, warehouses and stuff. They advertise on the Rush Limbaugh show. Right? Huh? Well, first of all, if you're selling a $100,000 building, you don't need to pop 10 of them a day, right? And they have a deal unusual with Limbaugh. Their deal is they can take 2 months off at any time and not lose their position because they actually get so many leads and so many contracts, they can't build the damn buildings. That's their biggest problem. So they can rest 2 months anytime during the year so they can catch up. All right? Now, there's on any of the other shows, I've checked as recently as 3 months ago, running the dial on Sirius, Hannity, Beck, anything you could name that would be Limbaugh comparable, there's no competitor to them advertising there. Because everybody thinks they're an idiot, because they're not in their category. The number 4, the initials stand for you can't do business sitting on your ass. It means getting out and about, which we talked about enough this morning. I'm not going to belabor it. 5 is pretty cool. Find a place where idiots and nincompoops are making good money and invade. Okay? So Bezos, when he went at the book business, this is what he did. He said, people who are running bookstores are idiots, and they're still managing to make money. I'll go there. Right. This is mean. I almost hate to. There are some lists that it's like I lusted after the Nightingale Conant list because all the marketing aimed at it was mediocre at best and yet producing good results. Mostly, they never liked to pay copywriters, so the sales letters were all written from in-house people or cheap copywriters, and basically, in each category, if you took all their personal development sales letters and you took the product names out, the letters are really all the same. You could move it was idiot marketing. So I'm not going to go so far as to say the whole thing was owned by idiots and nincompoops, but I will say that the marketing going out the door was pretty dumb. And yet, in its glory years, extremely productive. I'm like drooling. If these customers will buy from this again and again, imagine what will happen if we show up with a good pitch. Which, by the way, is exactly what happened. So when we did magnetic marketing with the Nightingale Conant list, we cleaned house, right? Because it was a good sales letter. And we insisted on writing it. When we did new psycho-cybernetics with the Nightingale Conant list, we kicked ass, right? Because Jeff Paul and I wrote the sales letter. We didn't let Nightingale Conant do it. And it kicked ass, right? So there's places in your, whatever your bailiwick is, where some really just dumb entity is, and if they're not a dumb entity, their marketing is dumb. Their sales process is dumb. And that's worth invading. Find an opportunity where the public popular opinion and consensus is wrong for reasons you are confident of, and then bet against them. So first of all, this is also a great investment strategy. And so I preface this by saying I'm not giving you an investment advice. But I am telling you something I do a lot. I watch for the public's gross overreaction to something where the public consensus is dead wrong. And that's what I love to buy. So like I've done very well with Carnival Cruise Lines because when that ship in Italy of theirs was upside down and people were hanging from the side and all their luggage was floating around on the water and 3 people drowned, in 2 days the stock dropped by 35%. I couldn't wait to buy that stock. I mean, and it's not like but I stop every day for lunch if I'm working at home, and for 30 minutes I watch the financial news, and that's what was on the news that day. Is Carnival's ship upside down, and people are drowning, and their luggage is floating around, and their dog's upside down in the water, and and it's horrible, and nobody will ever take a cruise again, and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, call my guy, he says, are you sure? This much of it? He says, let me explain something to you. Unless they go bankrupt, which they are not going to do, all right, demographics guarantee they're coming back. There's a shitload of old people. They take cruises. There's a shitload more old people, almost ready to be old people, who are going to take cruises. All right? Old people got bad memories. A bunch of them, they're Alzheimer's close. They ain't going to remember this for a week, let alone 3 months. This is the shortest term impact ever. You ain't going to stop them old people from taking those cruises. Are you kidding? 8 buffets a day, all you can eat, with an ice cream machine with sprinkles? Plus you get to see scenery? Are you shitting me? I don't care how many people you drowned. I mean, they're coming on. Watch them. He says, well, you know, you got a good point. I said, just buy me a shitload of this stuff, right? And then I did it again when they had the Carnival branded ship, and everybody was trapped on it for 4 days. Remember, it was in the news more recently, and the toilets are all overflowing, and everybody's sick, and they can't get them back to the port, and that's their lead news story of the day. Back down goes the stock, right? Get me some more. You sure? I said, trust me. Get me some more. And I suggest you buy some too. So I love this. Okay? And so, like Frank and I were just talking, in his world in Italy, where his sales training company is, he actually did what my price advice is to most people, which is, if in doubt, add a 0. Okay? So if you're not sure, just take the price you're selling at now, stick a 0 on the end, and see what happens. Okay? And so everybody in his market is selling basically what he does in the $300 neighborhood, including events. Added a 0. He's at 3, 4, 5,000. They're at 3, 4, 500. Right? He's doing bigger numbers than everybody. Right? So the consensus belief system about what people will pay for what he sells is totally 100% wrong. It's wrong. In chiropractic, when I did a lot of work in chiropractic in 1979, the consensus belief was $45 to $75 a visit. It depended where in the country you were. Every business has this, you understand. They have a secular religion about price, as they have a secular religion about how far people will come, as they have a secular religion about everything else. So they have a secular religion about price. These price norms, maybe once upon a time, were based on some kind of testing and some kind of research and some kind of data, but it's once upon a time in almost every one of these businesses. It's $50, $75 a visit. We were selling prepaid plans with 20 visits in them for $15,000. Prepaid. Now you got a hot cloth, and you got a bottle of nutritional supplements, and I mean it was piffed a little, but look, it was 15 grand. I mean, with a 30% close rate for the average chiropractor. This was so agitating to everybody. They and those of us teaching it to them were all accused by state boards of unethical conduct. That, by the way, is that's one of the ways you know you're doing something right, is when your board, whatever the hell it is, decides to attack you for unethical conduct. 9 out of 10 times, what that means is highly successful, above par conduct that pisses off all the losers. That's what it really means, because your state board represents the losers. That's their job. Okay? They don't represent the winners. There's not enough of us to support an association and its bureaucratic bullshit or a regulatory agency. So they represent the losers. That's what they do. Okay? So you get that letter, you go, oh boy, I'm on the right track with this stuff. Ben Glass, they've been after him. This is 6, 7 months now for his hiring procedure, right? Because he actually requires the law graduate to write an essay. And the state has decided that this is insulting. 5 or 6 law graduates have complained, and they are now investigating him for unethical hiring practices because they can't submit it online. He doesn't want a resume. They got to write an essay, and they got to either deliver it to the office or they got to FedEx it to the office. And they are after him, right? And here's what he knows. He's exactly right. That's what he knows, Okay? If he wants to wind up with 3 good ones, he's on the right track. Last, you can go from generic to niche, or you can go from niche to generic. Okay? Almost everybody has one or the other opportunity. In chiropractic, there's 8 or 10 probably around the country who have golf practices. Okay? Their entire practice is for golfers. Flexibility, pain-free golf, hit the ball farther, hit the ball straighter, etc. That's what they got. They've taken a generic thing. They're not doing anything different, you understand. An adjustment is an adjustment. Stretching is stretching. Nothing's changed. They just changed who they're selling it to, the purpose for it, therefore the meaning. Okay? It all links together. For a rabid golfer, still being able to play and play competitively with his buddies and hit the ball farther than them, this has much greater meaning than just generally having less back pain. That is, my dick's bigger than yours. This is just, I don't hurt as much. Okay? I can take back pain. I can't take you consistently beating me at golf. That I can't handle. But I can handle a lot of pain. So that generic to niche works. You can reverse from niche to generic in some cases. Almost always when you go from generic to niche, you get price elasticity. You should know that. It doesn't usually happen in the other direction. You get a bigger market is what you get. But if you go from generic to niche, you almost always get price elasticity because it needs more, right? So it's become a big category. It used to be a very small category in nutritional supplements, eye stuff to keep you from getting cataracts and going blind and not being able to see. And it used to be a really tiny category. It's a big category now. If you go to a health food store, you'll see there's 3 or 4 shelves of the stuff. Right? It's all the same, incidentally. Read the labels, not the name on the front of it, the ingredients. It's all the same stuff. But that same product sold in Private Pilot magazine for private pilots, labeled for pilots, all the ad copy about pilots, sells for 4 times the price. Why? Because it means more. I got a plane. I got to take a test every once in a while. I'm not allowed to fly it. Right? This is how I get out of the house. Well, it's what golf is. That's what planes are. That's right. I mean, this is fishing. Exactly. This is the get out of the house card, right? And if I can't pass the eye test, I lose my get out of the house card, right? And you can never get out of the house truthfully, so you need some kind of card. Well, you can't. That's why golf was invented. You guys all know this, right? Golf was invented because the original Scot who invented it, he and his buddies quickly learned if they went to their wives and said, we're going to go down to the strip club and we're going to watch college games today and hang out together, the wives all said, the hell you are, right? As soon as they said, we're going to go out and walk 10,000 steps through grass and sand, and we're going to try and hit a ball with a stick into a tiny little hole, and we're going to have a miserable time, and we're all going to come home pissed off. All the wives said, have at it. Okay? I'm happy to have the house to myself today. Well, so all this stuff, that's what it is, right? Women have their own versions of it. So it means more. Therefore, you can charge more for it because it's for this person, right? So those are my favorite place strategies. Got to skip this. Kind of going to skip this. What else am I going to skip? I'm going to go all the way to page 64. I may or may not come back to this. We'll see. 64, we start to talk about process. So we're going to do this. I want to interview the little guy quickly, and then we're going to have a break. So many of the most valuable processes, you got a few minutes. I didn't say I was going to do it simultaneously. I said I was going to do it sequentially. So many great businesses are thought of as product businesses by their customers, by the public, even by their investors, when in reality, they are process businesses. The real key to their ability to thrive is all about their process and how good they are once they get a lead or a prospect or a customer. Almost all retail, terrible process. You're in the top 1%, right, in all retailers in the country, in whatever ranking that is. In the service category, retailers providing services. So most businesses in his category, like most retailers, they actually don't have a process. This is making it easier for Amazon to kill them than it would be otherwise. So they don't have a process. They have crap on the shelves and they have a cash register. They manage to get the lights turned on in the morning and somebody there to take the money. That's their whole process, right? And they hope somebody comes in. This is like it, right? And they have no back-end process. Their process with a customer is hope they put the right stuff in the bag, the clerk didn't say something to you that thoroughly pissed you off, and you'll come back and buy more of it when you need it. I just described the whole process, right? Most restaurants, what is their process? You show up, they feed you, you pay, you leave, they hope you come back. I just described the whole process. Well, Bezos is looking at this, he's going, see, we got process over here, right? We know. See, most retailers don't even have the most basic. Cobain got paid 1983 from the sausage and cheese store. What's the name of the? Hickory Farms. Thank you very much. Hickory Farms in 1983 paid him, I think, $250,000 to give them this strategy. You'll laugh. Right? Is we make a little chart for the person at the cash register, and if you're buying cheese and not buying sausage, she looks on the chart and says, you know, what most people like with that cheese is this kind of sausage. Would you like to have some sausage too? If they're buying sausage and not buying cheese, she looks on the chart and she says, you know, this is what he gave to them. Right? For all that money. Right? Now, this ain't new. You can find examples of this from the 30s at least. But how many places do you go at the retail level where there is some equivalent of that dynamic, where you are buying something that somebody could easily suggest, you know, because you're buying that, you might also need, want, be able to use, benefit from, like this. Would you like me to fetch it for you? And it never happens. That's like any place I buy things. Nobody, except at Christmas, sometimes at Father's Day, you can go out and eat out in a good restaurant from middle up every night of the year, pay your bill, and never get asked if you'd like gift cards. Never. How brain dead stupid is this, right? And you won't be asked for your contact information, and you won't be asked for your birth dates. Right? See, they have no process. The retail store has no process. You go, the best they got is, let us sign you up for our little club. That's the best they got. If they're part of a national chain, they usually got that. If you go to a Hallmark store, there's a Hallmark Gold Club, and we can sign you up, and you'll get discounts. but they have no real process. Amazon's got a process, including the sausage and cheese process, right? You don't get to buy a book without being told, hey, if you like that book and that guy, you would probably like these books. They got a process. Their brick and mortar counterparts have no process, or barely a process. So process is like really important. It's how you turn a okay business into a really profitable business. All the years I spoke on the Peter Lowe events, I'm the only guy that did appointment no sale. Showed it to everybody. We took the names of everybody who bought tickets, took out the ones who bought my stuff, and sent all the rest of them a letter as fast as we could. You didn't buy my stuff. You made a big mistake. There's a few reasons why you probably didn't, one of which is you probably didn't stay to hear me. All right? You were one of them people running out of there when I was coming on stage. It's all right, no offense. All right? So here's the and we can remedy this thing. And then it was basically a transcript of my speech and the same offer. All right? Broke even or better every time after the 50% split to Peter and paying all the expenses for the mailing. Would anybody else do it? No. I showed it to him. I showed him my numbers, for God's sakes. Tom, look. Zig, look. Nope. Nope. No. Nope. They just saw my Best Dog and Pony show. If they're not going to buy from that, fuck them. Everybody said that except Zig. He left off the last part. But he said, if they're not going to buy from my Best Dog and Pony show, they're worthless. I said, but I got numbers. This is not theory. I've been doing this now for 6 months, right? This is not, no. Secular religion about our business, what it is that we do, right? So now, I should have had 3 steps, and I should have had a telemarketer, and I should have had a drop-down offer, and I should have had it all. I didn't, but at least I had some process. These guys are out there running around. We're all suffering on the same planes. We're all staying in the same shitty hotels. We're all eating the same bad food. We're all enduring the same pain. They got no process. I got a process. Guess who's got more money? I promise you. Guess who's got more money? You're looking at them. Okay? And process makes the difference. So you got to look at your business as if it were a process business. So most people think about Tupperware, they think about the Tupperware, right? They're still thinking about the plastic pot that goes poop. That ain't, no. That's their 5 process thing, which I showed you yesterday, applied to beauty control, applied to 4 different cosmetic companies that don't even do business in the United States. The product's almost irrelevant. Doesn't matter. The process can be dropped over one, can be dropped over another one, can be dropped over another one. See, Amazon's so dangerous because these guys understand process. Right? And most of who they are killing doesn't understand it. And if they understand it, they're not willing to do it. So the principle is, I'm going to show you 3 quick examples. The principle is, it isn't just what happens, it's how it happens, it's where it happens, and when it happens. All right? Closing room, no closing room, we do it standing in the hall. All right? That's where it happens, how it happens. Are they given a tour of the office before they get their exam and their report of findings? And is the tour scripted? And are there little plastic signs up in front of everything that tell everybody what it is? Okay. So when Walt had no money and they were opening Disneyland and they only had half the road planted, on the other side was just dirt and weeds, they could at least afford signs. So Walt's last minute answer was a sign in front of every weed with a fake Latin name on it, a different one for every weed. So it looked like they were growing great plant, right? One of the first things I did at General Cassette when I got this thing and we had no money is I could at least afford signs. So when we're going to do the tour, I created real fancy process-sounding signs to hang over every piece of equipment in the factory, including the broke pieces that didn't run. Now we had a better tour. Let me show you how your product comes to life here. We got this great tour. It goes through the hoopy process, and it gets the audio tech piracy protection thing squirted on it over here. You know, if you go to a good car wash, right, as you go through the car wash, they got signs that tell you the foam crap's being sprayed on your car. It's all water, for God's sakes. It's all water. It's pink water, blue water. All you're doing is getting water. That's what you're getting, okay, at high pressure. No more, no less. But it matters what we call it. And okay, so the secret is the better the process, the more the money. That's the secret. So I'll show you 3 quick things. This is a client of mine. I am not going to name him. I don't want you to see that. You might be able to read it. And you're going to have to look at it in pieces. Okay? This is the first follow-up to a lead from an ad. This is what it looks like. Okay? So there's the offer they came in for. There's another offer. There's another offer. There's another offer. And there's another offer. Okay? This row is all emails. So there's 8 for this offer. There's 9 through 13, whatever that is, through this offer. There's 14 through 19 for this offer. There's 20 through 25 for this offer. There's 26 through 30 for this offer. This second offer is what really is the third offer, drives them to a teleseminar. What really is the fourth offer drives them to a webcast. The fifth offer reconfigures the whole thing and brings the price down by best offer ever. This row's all the email. This row's all the mail, all the offline. Nah, don't focus it if that's what you were coming up to do. 1 through 4 mail for this offer, 5 through 8 for this, 9, 10, 11 for this. This is all the phone calls. Phone call number 1, phone call number 2, phone call number 3, phone call number 4, and it is all over 46 days. It doesn't stop here. The lead moves into another funnel and another funnel. This is one funnel for one lead for 46 days. In his niche, this business is roughly 10 times the size of his next closest competitor. And in net, it's probably 20 times his next closest competitor. And the chief difference between them is what I just showed you. It's not what they do. It's not really how they do it. It's this. Because everything, ascension from one level to the next, an event, getting people to an event, it all looks like that horror show. Or worse. That's what it looks like your stuff looks, like a horror show. Right? Everybody puts it up on a wall and people go, oh my God, no, not that. Right? The other one I want to show you, which you do have, it's your page, is it your page 65? Yeah. Looks like this, right? Okay? So this is like the most current Dan theory of business. If you go online, I think it's WaltDisneyTheoryOfBusiness.com. If you just Google Disney Theory of Business, you can actually find, they'll give you Walt's original chart, which looks kind of like this. Okay? This is Dan's theory of business. You can study it on your own time. I will just point out that the heavy, darker lines are the ones that really count. Now, you go back 10 years, this looked different. But right now, these are the lines that really count. Because my business, not GIC's business, my business is just me consulting, copywriting clients, and me speaking. But there's a whole lot of stuff that feeds that and is fed by that. Now again, you put this up on the wall, most people walk out of the room, they go to the bathroom, they never come back. You don't see them, they don't like it. The other one I gave you, by the way, if you don't give me points for anything else, you should give me points for transparency. I should get points for transparency. So the other one is, here's our pyramids. Okay? So GIC, the main pyramid is the one to the left. You all know it. I don't need to walk you through it. The one to the right is the info marketing pyramid, which is parallel to the main one, right? It's the one that spins off all our satellites in orbit who say nice things about us to markets that then turn around and come to us, right? That creates you, right? That creates Burleson, that creates Greg, that creates Clint, okay? That now spins them off, which if you go back to the other chart, you'll find all that, right? The two hooked together, right? And then in this case, my stuff, which is on the other chart, is really the pyramid on top of the other two pyramids, right? And they're all pyramidal to some extent. Right? Show you one other level of sophistication real quick. This is, it immediately looks painful. You don't have to read the numbers. I'll tell you what they mean. So this is a niche. Everybody's in the same business. These are all the states. This is how many of them there are per 100,000 population in 2010, in 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay? So in South Carolina, there's 109 of them per 100,000 of population. In California, because there's so many people, there's only 1.4 for every 100,000 of population. And then if you go year to year, you can see if there's growth, if there's decline, if there's any of that, okay? So if most people are going to mail a niche, they mail the niche. Or they mail nth name. Oh, okay, there's 300,000 of them. We'll mail every 10, right? They don't really dig any deeper than that. But there's a lot of data, and this is one kind of data that you might use. So you might use it to pick states to focus on and states not to focus on. You might use it by growth or stagnancy or decline year to year. Oh, I'll go into the states where there's more of them year to year because the competition's getting fiercer, and that will help me. All right? You might pick where to franchise based on data like this. You might vary the message because, think about this. For some reason, God knows why, but facts are facts. It has declined slightly, but in South Dakota, there are 697 of them per 100,000 people. In Pennsylvania, there's only 40 of them per 100,000 people. One's a cluttered and competitive environment. The other one is not. Shouldn't we say something different to the person who is in a cluttered and competitive environment than we say to the person who isn't? Well, if we're smart, we should, right? You might decide to change literally the thing you emphasize in low business to population ratio states versus high. In low, their problem is probably not marketing. Their problem is probably delivery. Their problem is probably management. Right? We went through this with Chauncey Hunter's business with tax accountants. We went into a 2-year period of time where they didn't want to hear the word marketing. Their whole problem in life was people hanging from hooks outside in the parking lot, and they couldn't get the tax returns done. Their interest was how to get a tax return done in 32 minutes instead of 35 minutes. That's what they wanted to hear. They did not want to hear how to get more customers. This chart might lead you in that direction. The other sophisticated thing is language. So different people respond to different language. All right? I don't care if you're all tax accountants. Do you talk differently in West Virginia than you do in Anaheim? Damn straight you do. And vice versa. Is your conversation at the bar in Boston different than it is at the bar in Louisville? Or Lowville, if you say it. I mean, yes, it's different, right? And by profession to profession to profession, it's different. So this is one whole book of nothing but language for the non-entrepreneurial CEO. Let me show you a couple things. Here's words to use and why they work. Here's use words like get everyone on board, get everyone's agreement, achieve a consensus. Okay. Here's what to put in a letter. By the way, if you left me to my own devices for 10 lifetimes, you would never hear me say, build a consensus. If I didn't use this when I wrote copy to hospital CEOs, I would never use the words, build a consensus. And my advice to them, if I was advising them, would be, that's the last thing you want to do. You want to do shit everybody hates. That's what you want to do. Right? But writing copy to them, I want to use the language that typifies what they want. So there's a level of sophistication to all of this that becomes part of process. All right, get up here now, you little bugger. And so one of the problems with process has long been, it's what are you doing? Oh, okay. You know, really, you did that. I'm surprised. I thought, well, you know.
It'll be hard to climb that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, for the dog at home on the couch, we have little doggy steps. I was thinking maybe we should have little midget steps. Well, hop up there.
No, he actually brought a little. Really?
Hop up there. And I do mean hop. There you go. Be careful, don't fall. So once you start to get really sophisticated with process, the next problem everybody bumps up against is how the hell do we implement it, right? And so we used to teach all kind of stuff before Infusionsoft that the truth be told, we were teaching stuff we knew 90% of the people couldn't go do. That's really the truth. Because they had to cobble 6 things together, and they had to manually move stuff from one place to the next, right? And we essentially fixed that at Glaser Kennedy for our people with Infusionsoft, which I always say is the least worst of the available options. I'd say it if Clayton was in the room. It's the truth. And again, I should get points for transparency in life if I don't get points for anything else. You remember that movie, Defending Your Life, with Albert Brooks? Anybody remember this movie? That's going to be my defense. Okay? At least I was transparent. I was evil, but at least I was transparent. That'll be my defense. Yep. So we sort of solved that problem, but then the internet exploded, and now there's 62 different media, and this chart now has this, and it has this, and it has this, and now the next level of these problems occurred, which gave birth to people like you, right? in the legal profession of, okay, now we hooked them all up to Infusionsoft, but Jesus Christ, they don't know how to use it, they won't use it, and there's now 48 things to do with it instead of 6, so we'll get in the business of doing that, right? So process implementation, even now, I get done with a client and I deliver them a giant box of things to do. That's, if you want the truth, that's what I do. Okay? I try not to let them know that's what's happening in advance, but that really is the truth, is here's, and I build complex stuff. And here it is, have at it, right? And, you know, Halbert's sign used to be how copywriters don't get paid, right? Clients don't implement, number 1. Number 2, clients don't implement. Number 3, clients don't implement. Number 4, clients don't implement. Number 5, clients try to implement but screw it all up. Number 6, clients try to implement, but well, that hadn't changed since Halbert's day. It's, so like if you get royalties, like John, so John's bragging about still getting royalties from 15 years ago. I got a couple of those too. We each have a couple. We don't have a lot because most never got used or got used in pieces and parts. I built a campaign 2 years ago. I tried to give them to you, by the way, and they wouldn't go, to their detriment. I'm not going to name them, but tried to give this client to him because for their event, I built a 12-month, multi-step, multimedia, 5-campaign system, which they paid for.
Wow.
And they were utterly incapable of implementing it. So they implemented 2 campaigns with a couple pieces from here and a couple pieces from there.
Wow.
And a couple pieces from there. They still got a better result than they got the year before, but they got nowhere near the result they should have got because process needs somebody who understands process and can implement it. Mm-hmm. So you are one of those little guys who can be stuck over there in the cave and can do that. So,
yep.
So you, the nickel first, how you describe what it is that you do.
I'm a systems guy, Dan. Process is my hobby.
Okay.
So if I were to say in one line what I do, Dan gets you pregnant, I deliver the baby.
Great. Okay. All right.
I mean, everything that is, like people come to events and people listen to Dan. There is this big fat book, people handwrite stuff, there is sticky notes coming out of it, and there is double underline and highlighter. And I have 4 months later, I say, you want to take out that notebook and give me just the double underline stuff? I'll put together an implementation plan for it. So for example, here, even taking notes, I have a process for it. I have a mind map with, I just counted before I got here. I'm at 482 bullets. So this whole book thing that we have is now down to an 8-page, 400 bullet things to do with numbering, so I can refer back to the page. You buy the audio, so the tape, so roughly the date, the time, and you can kind of deep dive in to see what Dan was saying. But that's the process. And I have that dating back to 2009. Every session, if Dan is speaking and if I'm legally allowed to be in the room, I'll show up. So that's who I am. I want to know what you want people to do, and I'll do it for them. That's my life.
Yeah, and you are taking somebody, you're actually into the shock and awe package, you're into the deliverables, you're into the fulfillment, you're into the sales funnel, the movement of the people online, and so forth.
Yeah, everything. Shock and awe, chair-side marketing, the fail-safe, fail-safe follow. My English isn't my thing.
Just don't leave the country, because we might not let you back.
So the fail-safe follow-up thing, I mean, I live there. That's my thing. Telephone, email, print. It's like I'm looking for a check or a restraining order. I mean,
Got it.
it's a thing. It's a process. And I use the tools, off-the-shelf tools, nothing self-invented. I just wipe and deploy everything. Infusionsoft. I took it, studied the spiritual core of it, and that's what I do. I have 350 funnels pre-built. I have shock and awe. I studied you, Dan.
Okay, so what do you got for everybody?
Oh. So, sure. A couple of audio CDs in there. One is just you talking about implementation, and one is you interviewing me and Dr. Carlo Biasucci.
Yeah, so Biasucci, a shared client, for which I wrote copy and created stuff that now needs implementation and hand off to him to do implementation, okay? So there's 2 audio CDs,
Yep.
all about that, free.
No, yeah, free.
Free.
Yeah.
You got them?
I have a handful, about a small box of them, not a couple hundred. But what I also have is the notes from here, the 8-pager. If anybody wants that,
Okay.
I'd be happy to. Another thing that I have, Dan, is I make binders.
How are you delivering that baby?
What?
The 8 pages, digitally?
Digital, physical, I'll show up.
All right, so,
Sing to you.
well, nobody wants you showing up.
I got Velcro.
So just go by his booth sometime between now and when we knock down tomorrow. If you're early, there'll be some of these you can get, or ask for them. And if you want the 8-page mind map thing, tell them how you want it, and he'll send it to you.
Yep. Dr. Kenny is here. I offered my mind map to the media people. And so Dr. Ken, I emailed it immediately, and Dr. Kenny is here. Where is
Handelman.
Yeah. So he saw my PDF, right? An hour later, he walks up to me, tap on the shoulder. He Parthiv, you see, you have been writing mind maps since 2009. I'm like, can I have all of them? I'm like, sure. So
Good.
him and I became friends ever since. We exchange ideas.
All right, cool.